Hello my dear students, today we will talk about the chemical combination and this lesson is for Prep 1, Unit 1, Lesson 1. In the last term we studied about the atom and we studied that matter is composed of molecules and each molecule consists of very smaller units called atoms. We studied that the atom consists of nucleus which contains protons which are positive and contains neutrons which have no charge or we call them neutrally charged. And around the nucleus there are electrons which have negative charge and the electrons rotate in energy levels around the nucleus. Generally, we said that the atom is electrically neutral in its ordinary state. Why? Because the number of positive protons equal the number of negative electrons. We describe the number of protons and the number of neutrons by two main numbers, which are the mass number and the atomic number. We said that the atomic number is the number of protons, and we said that the mass number is the number of protons plus number of neutrons. And we described that the number of protons equal the number of electrons. So the atomic number describes the number of protons and also describe the number of electrons. Let's talk about our list. The number of well-known elements until now is 118 elements. The elements are classified according to their properties and electronic structure into three types: metals, non-metals, and noble gases. First of all, let's talk about metals. The metals are the elements which have less than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. Again, they are elements which have less than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. For example, I have here sodium. Its symbol is Na. It contains 11 electrons. By doing the electronic configuration, we have here the energy level K contains 2 electrons, the energy level L contains 8 electrons, and the energy level M contains only 1 electron. So it contains less than 4 electrons, so it's a metal. Magnesium also, in energy level K we have 2 electrons, in energy level L we have 8 electrons, and in energy level M we have 2 electrons. So the outermost energy level contains less than 4 electrons, so the magnesium is a metal. What are the properties of metals? The properties of metals are 4 main properties. First, all of the metals are solid except mercury, which is the only liquid metallic element. Again, all the metals are solid except mercury, which is a liquid metal. All of the metals have metallic luster. All of the metals are good conductor of heat and electricity, and they are malleable and ductile. So, here the properties of metals. First, they contain less than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. All of them are solids except for mercury, which is liquid. They have metallic luster, they are good conductor of heat and electricity, and they are malleable and ductile. As they contain less than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level, they tend to lose their outermost electrons during the chemical reaction. Why? To make their outermost energy level empty. So they are similar to the nearest noble gas for them. So during the chemical reaction, atoms of metals tend to lose or give their outermost electrons to other atoms. And by losing the electrons, so we say here that the negative charge is decreasing and the positive charge is increasing. So they change into positive ions. And they carry a number of positive charges equal to the number of the lost electrons. Again, during the chemical reaction, they tend to lose their outermost electrons. Why? To make their outermost energy level empty. And by losing the electrons, we say here that the protons are more than electrons. So they change into positive ions, and these positive ions carry a number of positive charges equal to the number of the lost electrons. So what is the meaning of positive ion? It's an atom which loses an electron or more during the chemical reaction, or it's an atom for metallic element which loses an electron or more during the chemical reaction. For example, here let's talk about a metal atom which loses an electron during the chemical reaction, and this atom is the sodium. The sodium contains 11 electrons. In the first one we have K contains 2 electrons, the energy level L contains 8 electrons, and the energy level M contains 1 electron. So they tend here to lose the outermost energy level electrons, and by losing 1 electron they are 2-8. The outermost energy level is completely filled, and it changes into a positive ion which is Na positive. Number 2, magnesium, which contains 12 electrons, 2-8-2, and they tend to lose 2 electrons to be 2-8, and they change into a positive ion Mg positive 2. Positive 2, why? Because the magnesium lost 2 electrons. Example number 3, aluminum atom contains 13 electrons, 2-8-3, and during the chemical reaction they tend to lose the outermost energy electrons, which are 3 electrons, and by losing the 3 electrons they change into a positive ion Al positive 3 and positive 3 because the aluminum loses 3 electrons. So give reason when the atom loses an electron or more during the chemical reaction, it changes into a positive ion. Why? Because the number of electrons in this case becomes less than the number of protons. The second type of elements is the non-metals, and they are the elements which have more than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. So the metals contain less than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. The non-metal contains more than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. For example, here I have oxygen. Oxygen contains 8 electrons, and by doing the electronic configuration 2, 6, so I have here in the outermost energy level 6 electrons, more than 4 electrons, so the oxygen is a non-metal. And also the chlorine, it contains 17 electrons. By doing the electronic configuration 2, 8, 7, the outermost energy level contains more than 4 electrons, so it's a non-metal. Generally, what are the properties of non-metal? The non-metals exist in the 3 states. I have solid non-metal, liquid non-metal, and gaseous non-metal. So they are solid and gases, except bromine, which is the only liquid non-metallic element. So the non-metal exists in the 3 states, solid, liquid, gas, and the only liquid non-metal is the bromine. The second property, that the non-metals have no luster. The third property, they are bad conductor of heat and electricity, except for graphite or the carbon, which is a good conductor of electricity, and they are not malleable or ductile. So the properties of non-metals: first, they have more than 4 electrons in their outermost energy level. They are solid and gases except for bromine, which is the only liquid non-metallic element. They have no luster. They are bad conductor of heat and electricity except for graphite, which is carbon, which is a good conductor of electricity, and they are not malleable or ductile. During the chemical reaction, I have here, they contain in the outermost energy level more than 4 electrons. So they tend to gain electrons, to get electrons from other atoms. Why? To complete their outermost energy level. In the metals, they tend to lose, so they make the outermost energy level empty. But in the non-metals, they tend to gain electrons to complete their outermost energy level and make it completely filled. So the atoms of nonmetals tend to gain electrons from other atoms to complete their outermost energy level. And by getting electrons or gaining electrons, we have here electrons more than protons. The negative charge is more than the positive charge. So they change into negative ions. And the negative ions carry a number of negative charges equal to the number of the gained electrons. So the atoms of nonmetals tend to gain electrons from other atoms to complete their outermost energy level and change into negative ions, which carry a number of negative charges equal to the number of the gained electrons. So what is the meaning of negative ion? It's an atom which tends to gain one electron or more during the chemical reaction. Examples of nonmetal atoms, I have here chlorine, contains 17 electrons, 287, the outermost energy level contains 7 electrons. It needs only 1 electron to make the outermost energy level complete, so it gains 1 electron to be 288. The outermost energy level now is completely filled and it changes into a negative ion Cl negative 1. Example number 2, oxygen atom. Oxygen contains 8 electrons, 2, 6. It needs 2 electrons to complete the outermost energy level, and it gains 2 electrons to complete its outermost energy level, so it will be 2, 8, and it changes into a negative ion O negative 2. Example number 3, nitrogen atom, N, and nitrogen contains 7 electrons, 2, 5. It needs 3 electrons to complete the outermost energy level and gains 3 electrons and it changes into a negative ion N negative 3. So give reason. When the atom gains an electron or more during the chemical reaction, it changes into a negative ion. Why? Because the number of electrons become more than the number of protons. We have here an important note. Hydrogen H1 has only 1 electron in the outermost energy level, K level, but it's not considered from metals. It's a gaseous non-metal element. So although hydrogen contains only 1 electron, but it's a gaseous non-metal. So generally we have here the ion is the atom which loses or gains an electron or more during the chemical reaction. Again, the ion is the atom which loses or gains an electron or more during the chemical reaction. The third type of elements is the noble gas. What is the meaning of noble gases? They are elements in which the outermost levels are full with electrons, completely filled with electrons. So they do not participate in any chemical combination in ordinary conditions. So they are elements in which the outermost energy levels are full with electrons, so they do not participate in any chemical combination in ordinary conditions. Therefore, each molecule consists of one single atom. The molecule of noble gases is monoatomic molecule. They do not form a positive or negative ions in the ordinary conditions. Why? Because they do not lose or gain any electrons because the outermost energy level is completely filled. For example, here, I have here helium, which is the first noble gas. It contains 2 electrons, so the energy level K contains 2 electrons and it's completely filled. Neon contains 10 electrons, and by doing the electronic configuration 2, 8, so we have here the energy level L is completely filled by 8 electrons. We have here argon 18, which contains 18 electrons. By doing the electronic configuration 288, we have here K contains 2 electrons, L contains 8 electrons, and M contains 8 electrons, and it's completely filled. So the inert gases are the gases in which the outermost energy level is completely filled with electrons. The second part of the lesson is the chemical bonds. The atoms combine with each other, forming molecules through a chemical bonds. And we have 2 types of chemical bonds, which are ionic bond and covalent bond. First, let's talk about the ionic bond. The ionic bond is a type of chemical bonds that occurs between a metal atom and non-metal atom. A metal atom tends to form a positive ion. The non-metal atom tends to form a negative ion. So we have here positive and negative ions. And between positive and negative, we have electrical attraction between them. So the ionic bond, it's a bond that results from the electrical attraction between a positive ion and a negative ion. How is ionic bond formed? The metal atom loses one electron and it changes into a positive ion. The non-metal atom gains the electron lost from the metal atom and it changes into negative ion. A strong electrical or electrostatic attraction between positive and negative ions occurs through the ionic bond. So, ionic bonds produces compounds only, not elements. Why? Because ionic bond arises between two different elements, metal and non-metal. So again, the ionic bond occurs between metal and non-metal atoms. The metal loses an electron and changes into positive ion. The non-metal gains the electron lost from the metal and changes into negative ion. And we have positive and negative, so there is an electrical attraction between them. So we have here ionic bond. Ionic bond produces ionic compound. For example, here I have formation of magnesium oxide molecule, MgO. The magnesium is a metal which contains 12 electrons. By doing the electronic configuration, we have 2, 8, 2. So the magnesium, as it's a metal, it will lose the outermost energy level electrons, which are 2 electrons, and it changes into positive ion, Mg positive 2. And the oxygen, which is non-metal, gains 2 electrons, which are lost from the magnesium atom, and it changes into a negative ion, O negative 2. So we have here 2 electrons lost by the magnesium and 2 electrons gained by the oxygen, and they are the same 2 electrons. A strong ionic bond is formed due to the electric attraction between the positive magnesium ion, Mg positive 2, and the negative oxygen ion, O negative 2, forming an ionic molecule of magnesium oxide, MgO. So we have here magnesium positive 2, which is magnesium ion, oxygen negative 2, oxygen ion, forms a magnesium oxide ion, which is a compound. Another example for the ionic bond is the formation of sodium chloride, NaCl. The sodium is a metal which contains 1 electron only in the outermost energy level. The chlorine is a non-metal which contains 7 electrons in the outermost energy level. So the sodium loses the electron in the outermost energy level, and this electron will transfer to the chlorine to complete its outermost energy level. So the sodium will form a positive ion and the chlorine will form a negative ion, as the sodium loses 1 electron and the chlorine gains this 1 electron. And by the electrostatic attraction, it will form NaCl. The second type of the chemical bonds between atoms is the covalent bond. And the covalent bond is a type of bond that occurs between 2 non-metal atoms. The covalent bond is a bond that results among the atoms of non-metals through the participation, the sharing of each atom with the number of electrons equal to the number that complete the outer electron shell. Again, it's a bond that resulted among the atoms of non-metals through the participation or sharing of each atom with a number of electrons equal to the number that completes the outer electron shell or the outer energy level. The types of covalent bond are 3 types: single covalent bond, double covalent bond, and triple covalent bond. The single covalent bond is the bond which arises between 2 nonmetals where each atom shares the other atom with 1 electron only. Each atom shares the other atom with 1 electron only, and it's represented by 1 line joining the 2 atoms. For example, here, the formation of water molecule by covalent bond. I have oxygen which contains 6 electrons in the outermost energy level, and hydrogen which contains 1 electron only in its energy level. So the oxygen needs 2 electrons to complete its outermost energy level, and the hydrogen needs 1 electron to complete its outermost energy level. So the hydrogen share the oxygen with 1 electron. Each hydrogen atom shares the oxygen with 1 electron, so it forms the water molecule. Let's see here. For example, here, the first hydrogen atom, if we look carefully at the energy level, we will see that it contains 2 electrons, so it's completely filled. The second hydrogen atom, it contains also 2 electrons. One of them belongs to the hydrogen and the other one belongs to the oxygen. And here also one of the electrons belongs to the hydrogen and the second electron belongs to the oxygen. While the oxygen atom contains now 8 electrons, as it shares by 1 electron and the hydrogen shares by 1 electron, so it contains 8 electrons and it completes its outermost energy level. So the water molecule contains single covalent bond, and we describe it by one line, OH. The second type of the covalent bond is the double covalent bond, and it's the bond which arises between 2 nonmetal atoms, in which each atom shares the other atom with 2 electrons, and it's represented by 2 lines joining the 2 atoms, like the bond between the 2 oxygen atoms in the oxygen molecule. The oxygen contains 6 electrons in the outermost energy level, and it needs 2 electrons to complete their outermost energy level. So each atom shares the other atom with 2 electrons. So we have here 2 electrons from each atom, so the outermost energy level is completely filled. We have here the first one contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this atom is completely filled. And we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the second one is completely filled. So here the oxygen molecule contains double covalent bond. Why? Because each oxygen atom shares the other one with 2 electrons. And it's described by 2 lines joining the 2 atoms. The triple covalent bond. The triple covalent bond, it's the bond which arises between 2 nonmetal atoms, where each atom shares the other atom with 3 electrons. And it's represented by 3 lines joining the 2 atoms. It means that each atom shares the other one with 3 electrons. Like in nitrogen molecule. The nitrogen contains 7 electrons and the outermost energy level contains 5 electrons. So it needs 3 electrons to complete its outermost energy level. So each atom shares the other one with 3 electrons. So if we look carefully here, we will find out that I have here 2 electrons and 6 electrons. It makes them 8 electrons in the outermost energy level. So each atom is now completely filled. And we describe the triple covalent bond by 3 lines joining the 2 atoms, like here. So the nitrogen molecule contains triple covalent bond. Why? Because each atom shares the other atom with 3 electrons. From the previous, we observed that covalent bond is not formed by losing or gaining any electrons, but it's formed by sharing with electrons. So we find out that the covalent bond produces element molecules and compound molecules. Element molecules between non-metallic similar atoms, like in oxygen molecule and nitrogen molecules, and compound molecules between 2 different non-metallic atoms, like in water molecules. And the covalent bonds produce covalent compounds. That's all for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay home, stay safe, and good luck.